Welcome to Unstuck and Friggin' Fabulous, the podcast for ambitious women ready to ditch doubt, get out of their own way, and create a life that feels bold, beautiful, and fully aligned. This is episode number 65. I am your host, Irene Lidwell, a confidence and mindset coach. And today, my beautiful girl, we are going to talk about something that sounds simple. But for many women, it's one of the hardest things they ever do. Being true to yourself and trusting yourself. Being your best friend. Allowing for mistakes and still love yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. So how is this an important thing to do, to trust yourself? Because somewhere along the way, many of us stopped trusting ourselves because we started listening to everyone else's opinions and everyone else's expectations and everyone else's fears. It all became ours. And you know what? Little by little, we just abandoned ourselves. And because we learned that fitting in felt safer than standing out, we started people-pleasing. And because that felt safer than disappointing people, we learned that being liked felt safer than being authentic. And before we knew it, we were living a life that looked okay from the outside, a life that somebody else expected us to live. But we did not feel that it was our life. It felt wrong. And if you ever said, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want. I don't trust my decisions. I feel disconnected from myself. Then, my friend, this episode is for you, because today we are coming home back to you. So the day you stopped trusting yourself didn't happen overnight. It's, it just happened slowly. Because if you remember when you were little, you did not distrust yourself. Because when a child knows exactly what they want, when they're hungry, they're tired and angry, the world knows about it because they are very loud. They don't need a life coach. They don't need a self-help book. They trust themselves naturally, and so did you. Then life happens. Someone tells you you're too loud, too sensitive, too much, or maybe not enough. And slowly you start looking outside yourself for answers. What other people's opinion becomes very important, right? Wrong, but it happens. And you start asking, what do they think about me? What should I do? What will make everyone happy? We do ask those questions, but we should really ask, what feels right for me? And that's where self-trust begins to disappear if we don't. Not in a dramatic moment, but through thousands of tiny moments where you stop listening to yourself and start listening to everybody else. So tell me, what is the cost of betraying yourself? Do you know? Well, I can tell you. It's you. It's who you are. It's your essence of who you are. Because every time you ignore your truth, you weaken your trust in yourself. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you weaken your self-trust. And it feels really awful. And every time you stay in a relationship that isn't right, or when you stay in a job that you absolutely hate, or you tolerate behavior that hurts you, and every time you shrink yourself to make other people feel comfortable, you weaken your self-trust. Most women think confidence comes from success. But now you should know it doesn't. Confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. Confidence comes from knowing that I got my own back. I know that nobody's coming to save me. I know I have to look after myself. I know I can trust myself because you love yourself. You have self-trust. That's where real confidence lives. Not in achievements or in money or in followers and not in approval, but integrity with yourself. How does that sound? Integrity in yourself. So, why is it that so many lose themselves? Well, I see this all the time. Women become experts in reading everyone else but themselves, because they are so busy managing everyone else's emotions, not their own. They don't feel, they don't do anything about how they feel, and they lose contact with their own. They're so busy being needed. I'm guilty. They forget who they are outside of helping people. I used to be one of those. And one day we wake up and we think, who even am I? It's not because you have disappeared. It's because you have abandoned yourself by the one person who was meant to stay. Who is it that abandoned you? It's you, right? And I know this because I have lived it. There was a time in my life where I looked successful on paper. Yeah, I did. And I had a completely disconnected from what I actually wanted. I did what I thought was the right thing. I was surviving. I wasn't living. I was performing. I wasn't expressing myself. I was existing. And it's a bloody lonely place to be, my darling. But thank God, we have a body, a vessel that hosts all these feelings. And that's your body. And that, a body is very fascinating. And your mind is even more fascinating. But did you know that your mind can lie to you, but your body doesn't? Because your mind will always try to keep you safe, and it will always find the easiest path to go. And because that's safer, right? But your body doesn't lie to you. It knows when something is wrong. It's like a BS radar. Your body knows when a relationship isn't healthy, for example, or a job is draining your soul totally, or when you are pretending to be somebody that you are not. And let me ask you this. Have you ever walked into a room and felt uncomfortable immediately because your body knew? Have you ever met someone and thought, uh-oh, something feels off here? Your body knew. Have you ever stayed in a situation long after your intuition told you to leave? Your body knew. The problem isn't that your intuition isn't speaking. The problem is that most of us have stopped listening. We have trained ourselves to override our inner wisdom. How sad is that? And then wonder why we feel lost. And sometimes you don't even know what it is, but your body knows. And you try to explain it away, rationalize it. I remember I was supposed to go home to Sweden, and I went into Flight Center and bought my airline ticket. Yes, it was expensive, but I knew that. But all of a sudden, I was overcome by nausea. I felt awful. Like I felt like I couldn't move. And I was thinking to myself, why? Why am I feeling this way? Is it the price of the ticket or what is it? But I didn't realize that it was going to be one of the worst 6 weeks of my life. Somehow my body knew, but I didn't know. And it yeah, I should just have stopped. I should have said, no, I am not going. Not now, maybe later, but not now. But I didn't listen. And yes, did I pay for that? Yes, I did. I did. But I didn't know that it was my body that was talking to me. It was my intuition. And I ask for you to listen to it. When it talks to you that loudly, screams at you, that you feel nauseous and you feel totally drained, just stop for a moment and listen. Do you know, there are two words that create our lives. And now you know I love talking about these two words. The two most powerful words you ever say to yourself is I am. I am confident. I am capable. Unlucky, stuck, not enough, successful, or invincible. Whatever follows I am becomes the blueprint for your life. Because your mind is always listening. I said this earlier. Your subconscious is always taking notes. And eventually you become the person you've been telling yourself you are. If you constantly tell yourself and berate yourself, you know what? Guess what happened? It becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. And you're in charge of who you want to be. Because self-trust isn't a destination, it's a practice. So goddamn it, start practicing. Talk nicely to yourself. And every time you honor your truth, you strengthen that identity. So how do you rebuild your self-trust then? So, okay, let's get practical. How do you actually trust yourself again? Keep small promises. Start with changing your whole life, right? Nope. No. Start small. If you say you go for a walk, go. And if you say you make the phone call, make it. And if you say you drink more water, do it. Self-trust grows through evidence. And when there is evidence, your brain, your subconscious mind starts saying, oh, wow, look at her. She actually does what she says. She is trustworthy, and confidence grows. And please stop asking everyone else for their opinion. I know it's hard, but before you ask 5 friends what they think, how about if you ask yourself first? What do I think? What do I want? What feels right to me? Because sometimes we're not looking for advice. We're looking for permission from other people. Stop it. You don't need permission. You have your own permission. You know, you have to tell yourself the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. I'm not saying that you should blurt out truth in situations to other people. You know, if you find that your best friend's just had a haircut that looks like crap, don't say, oh, God, that looks awful. No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about the truth to yourself. And especially when it's uncomfortable, tell the truth to yourself anyhow about your relationship. Don't sweep it under the carpet like it's fine, right? And what about your finances? How do you feel about your finances? And what can you do about it? And what about your health? Are you going for those walks you promised yourself? And what about your happiness? Are you making other people happy before you make yourself happy? Reality is your friend, my friend. Truth creates freedom, but denial creates suffering. So I want you to trust your history. Look at your life, what you have accomplished, and what you have done and overcome. You survived things that you thought was impossible. Heartbreak, loss, failure, fear, change. You got through all of it. Why? Because you've always been stronger than you realized. The evidence is already there in your past. So what happens to you when you trust yourself? What do you think? I can tell you everything changes because you stop overthinking, you make faster decisions, and you stop chasing approval, and you stop explaining yourself, and you stop apologizing for existing. You stop asking people to validate your worth because you already know what you are worth. Because you already know who you are. And here's the beautiful thing, my darling. The more you trust yourself, the less other people's opinion matters. Because people can disagree, they can judge you, they can misunderstand you. Because you know who you are and you will remain solid. Because your identity is no longer rented out to the crowd. It belongs to you. So coming home to yourself, maybe today is the day you stop looking outside yourself. Maybe today is the day you remember that the answers you've been searching for have always been inside you all along since you were a little toddler. And maybe today is the day you stop abandoning yourself and you start choosing yourself. Not because you're selfish and not because you're finally ready to become the woman you were always meant to be. And no, those sirens are not coming from me. You would think that, the crazy woman, they're after her. But I know I can trust myself because I honor myself and I listen to myself. I'm a woman who backs myself, and I want that for you too. I want you to be the woman who knows who she is. And when you become that woman, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because you do. So here, my beautiful friend, if this episode resonated with you, I want you to ask yourself one simple question today. Where in my life am I not being true to myself? And then ask, what would the truthful version of me do next? So start here. One decision, one courageous conversation, one aligned action. That's how self-trust is built in small steps, little by little, again and again and again, until one day you realize you come home to you. Until next time, my darling, I am Marine Lidwall, and remember, you are never stuck. You are simply one brave decision away from becoming completely, unapologetically unstuck and absolutely effing fabulous. Bye for now, and don't forget to hit like and share. Talk to you next week.